Thebes had been founded now, and even though in exile still, you might seem fortunate in having Mars and Venus as your in-laws, Cadmus. Nor is this all, for in addition are offspring worthy of your noble wife, your sons and daughters, the pledges of your love, and grandsons too, already grown to manhood. But fortunate? A judgment best reserved for a man's last day. Call no one blessed, until he dies and last rites are said for him. Not all your riches could console you, Cadmus, grieving for the grandson that you lost when those unlikely horns sprang from his brow, and his own dogs were sated with his blood. You'll find, if you look closely, that the fault here was with fortune, not with the young man. For can it really be a crime to err? When the sun stood equidistant from his goals as shadowless midday, upon a mountain polluted with the blood of divers beasts, Actaeon languidly addressed his mates who had been hunting in the trackless wood. Fortune has been sufficient to the day. Our nets and spears are steeped in beastly gore. Let us renew our labors when Aurora next brings day in her saffron car. For now at midpoint, Phoebus sweats the fields. Stop what you're doing and take in the nets. They did as he commanded them to do, and abruptly brought their labors to an end. There is a grove of pines and cypress known as Gargothy, a hidden place most sacred to the celibate Diana, and deep in its recesses is a grotto artlessly fabricated by the genius of nature, which, in imitating art, had shaped a natural organic arch out of the living pumice and light tufa.
Before this little grotto, on the right, a fountain burbles. Its polluted stream widens to form a pool edged around with turf. Here the great goddess of the woods would come to bathe her virgin limbs in its cool waters when hunting wearied her. She is here today. Arriving, she hands the armorers of nymphs her spear, her quiver, and her unstrung bow, and while one nymph folds her discarded robe over an arm, two more remove her sandals, and that accomplished Theban nymph, her cow, gathers the stray hairs on Diana's neck into a knot. We cannot help but notice that her own hair is left in careless freedom. 5 other nymphs, whose names are Nephia, Hyale, Ranus, Hesperus, and Piale, fetch and pour water from enormous urns. And while Diana bathes as usual, see where Actaeon on a holiday, wandering clueless through the unfamiliar forest, now finds his way into her grove, for so fate had arranged. At sight of him within the misty precincts of their grotto, the naked nymphs began to beat their breasts and filled the grove with shrill and startled cries. In their concern, they poured around Diana, attempting to conceal her with a screen of their own bodies, but to no avail, for the goddess towered over all of them. The color taken from the setting sun by western clouds, so similar to that which rosy-tinted dawn often shows, was the same color on Diana's face when she was seen undressed. Even though her virgin comrades squeezed themselves around her, she managed to turn sideways and look back as if she wished she had her arrows handy. But making do with what she had, scooped up water and flung it in Actaeon's face, sprinkling his hair with the avenging droplets and adding words that prophesied his doom. Now you may tell of how you saw me naked. Tell it if you can, you may.
No further warning. The brow which she has sprinkled jets the horns of a lively stag. She elongates his neck, narrows his ear tips down to tiny points, converts his hands to hooves, his arms to legs, and clothes his body in a spotted pelt. Lastly, the goddess endows him with trembling fear. The heroic son of Altine flees, surprised to find himself so swift a runner. But when he stopped and looked into a pool at the reflection of his horns and muzzle, "Poor me," he tried to say, but no words came. Only a groaning sound by which he learned the groaning was now speech. Tears streamed down cheeks that were no longer his. Only his mind was left unaltered by Diana's wrath. What should he do? Return home to the palace or find a hiding place deep in the woods? Shame kept him from one course and fear the other. And while he stands bewildered, he observes his pack of hunting dogs approaching him, with Tracker and Keen Blackfoot in the lead. Tracker's a cream, Blackfoot's out of Sparta. Baying the good news to the dogs behind, the whole pack rushing at him like a storm. Gazelle and Greedy, Ridge Rover, all Arcadians with Killdeer and Tornado, and Sturdy Hunter, Fearsome Birdie, Gwen and Savage Sylvia, and Snap, and Faithful Shepherdess, along with Snare and 2 of the pups from her last litter. Ravenous Raptor, the Siconian, then Runner, Grinder, Spot, Tigress, Terror, Snow-Colored Whitey, Suit as black as ashes, Powerful Sparta, Devastating Whirlwind, Speedy and Wolf the Cyprian, her brother, and Trap. And after them came Blackie, Shag, and 2 dogs of mixed Cretan-Sparta ancestry. Fury and Fang, a little one named Yipper, and many more too numerous to mention, all out to taste his blood, all unrelenting through steep and sheer and inaccessible through difficult and through impossible places. They track him and he flees the hunt. He has so often led, longing to cry out to the pack behind him, "It's me, Actaeon! Recognize your master." But the words betray him and the air resounds with baying. Now Brownie and Buster leap onto his back, while Mountain Climber dangles from one shoulder. He's held at bay now, until the pack can gather and begin to savage him. Torn by their teeth, he makes a sound no man would make and no stag either, a cry that echoes through those well-known heights. And kneeling like a suppliant at prayer, he turns toward them, pleading with his eyes as a man would with his hands.
But his companions largely encourage the ferocious pack. All unaware, they look around for him, call out to him as though he weren't there. "Actaeon, pity he's not here with us." And hearing his own name, he turns his head. He might wish to be elsewhere, but he's present. He might wish merely to be watching this, rather than feeling the frenzy of his dogs who press around him, thrusting their pointed snouts into the savage body of their master, convinced that he's a stag. And it is said he did not die until his countless wounds had satisfied Diana's awful wrath.